Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right? Being kind, showing interest, giving your time, holding space for his emotions. And yet, somehow, you're still overlooked, passed by, ignored, or worse, breadcrumbed, ghosted, or kept as a placeholder until someone better came along. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone, because the world has sold you a lie, a very convincing one, that to be loved by a man, you must shrink yourself, smile more, ask for less, tolerate more, and above all, make him feel good, no matter the cost to you. But here's the unfiltered truth. That strategy doesn't just fail, it pushes away the very kind of man you desire. The man who values loyalty, depth, and emotional maturity. The man who doesn't just want to touch your body, but longs to honor your soul. And here's what no one tells you. The harder you try to be liked, the less respect you command. The more you soften your boundaries to keep him comfortable, the more forgettable you become. Not because you lack worth, but because you signal you don't believe in it yourself. And trust me, men feel that energy, even if they can't explain it. This isn't about playing games. It isn't about being cold or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about returning to your power, to your clarity, to your truth. Because when a woman stands in self-respect, emotional sovereignty, and inner peace, she becomes unforgettable. And here's the secret most women never hear. A high-quality man doesn't fall in love because you need him. He falls in love because you don't. So why do so many women keep repeating the same exhausting pattern? Giving more, accepting less, confusing sacrifice with strength. It's not weakness, it's conditioning. You are taught to earn love through self-abandonment. But that ends today, right here, right now. This is your moment to wake up, to see love through new eyes. Because once you learn how a high-value woman speaks to a man, everything changes. The way he looks at you, the way he talks to you, the way he respects you and pursues you, it all shifts. And no, this isn't about memorizing clever lines or faking confidence. It's about embodying an energy that commands loyalty without ever having to demand it. It's about living from a mindset rooted in clarity, stoicism, calm strength, and unshakable self-worth. In this video, I'm going to show you the 6 exact ways a high-value woman speaks to a man so that he sees her as the ultimate prize. Not because she tries harder, but because she speaks from fullness, not fear. And if you stay until the end, you'll walk away with a clarity most women never discover, and a presence that most men never forget. So, ask yourself, are you ready to stop chasing and start attracting? Are you ready to speak like a woman who doesn't just want love, but embodies it? Then, let's begin. And don't blink, because what's coming next might just change the way you speak to men forever. 1. She speaks with certainty, not just confidence. There is a distinct difference between sounding confident and speaking with certainty, and it is a difference that men can feel in their nervous system, even if they cannot articulate it. Confidence can be performative, external, surface level, often a mask for insecurity dressed up in pretty words and poised posture. Certainty, on the other hand, lives deeper. It's in the cadence of your voice, the slowness of your delivery, the absence of filler words, the way you pause instead of rushing to explain yourself. When a high-value woman speaks with certainty, she isn't trying to prove a point or dominate the conversation. She is simply anchored. She speaks from inner alignment, from a clear understanding of her values, her non-negotiables, and her worth. Her words are not tools of persuasion. They are expressions of internal truth. Most women are taught to dilute themselves, to soften their tone, to add disclaimers like, I don't want to sound mean, but, or this might just be me, as if their thoughts need permission to exist. But a woman who speaks with certainty doesn't do this. She does not ask for space. She takes it without aggression, just presence. Her language is grounded, measured, not defensive. She does not raise her voice to be heard, because her essence is already loud enough. And this has nothing to do with volume and everything to do with energy. The energy of a woman who no longer needs agreement to validate her opinions is unmistakable. She is not seeking reassurance because she is not doubting herself. She may be open to growth, feedback, or deeper insight, but she is not available for questioning her own reality. Men notice this immediately, even if they can't explain why they suddenly feel a shift. There's a subtle psychological pressure that builds when a woman speaks with certainty, because it requires the man to become more intentional with his words. He can't just throw around half-truths, vague statements, or emotional manipulation, not because she'll argue with him, but because she won't play the game at all. She'll simply observe, assess, and disengage if needed. Her certainty disarms the performative masculinity many men are used to projecting. It holds up a mirror to their behavior without having to say, "I see what you're doing." Because certainty is quiet power. It doesn't need to defend itself. It just exists. And because of that, it demands respect without ever asking for it. In a culture where people talk fast to fill the space and use intensity to gain attention, the woman who speaks slowly, not from laziness but from clarity, disrupts the dynamic entirely. She commands the conversation without trying to control it. She listens, but she doesn't overlisten. She reflects, but she doesn't contort herself to match his energy. Her sense of time is different. She is not afraid of pauses. She's not threatened by silence. She's not performing. That's what makes her unforgettable, because men are not emotionally wired to respect words that chase. They are impacted by words that land, and words only land when they are delivered from a place of internal authority. Stoicism teaches us to master our emotions not by suppressing them, but by not letting them control our speech. A Stoic woman doesn't react out of anxiety. She doesn't speak to soothe her insecurities. She lets the moment unfold, and then she responds, not out of fear of losing him, but from the clarity of knowing who she is, regardless of him. She is not dependent on the conversation to define the relationship. She defines the energy she brings to the conversation, and in doing so, she shifts the entire dynamic without needing to raise her voice or prove a point. Think about it. When was the last time you spoke and knew that your words were enough just as they were? No embellishment, no editing, no packaging them in a way that made them more digestible. Just truth, plainly and calmly spoken. That's the energy that cuts through the noise. That's the energy that men remember. And that energy is born from the kind of internal stability that takes time to build. You don't get it by reading a script or copying someone's tone. You develop it by doing the work, the deep, personal, sometimes lonely work of choosing self-trust over self-doubt, of getting comfortable in your own stillness, of practicing the pause before you speak. Lovios isn't just a phrase, it's a state of being where your love is rooted in awareness, not attachment, where your communication doesn't beg for affection but reflects strength. When a woman speaks from that place, she becomes a force, not because she's trying to dominate a man, but because she's no longer trying to shrink herself for him. She says what she means and means what she says. She doesn't add emotional cushioning to soften the blow of her truth. She lets her words stand naked, and if the man can't meet that level of clarity, she doesn't lower herself to make him more comfortable. She doesn't say yes when she wants to say no. She doesn't say it's fine when it isn't. She doesn't ask leading questions to fish for validation. She speaks with precision, and she allows her message to land without rescuing him from his reaction. That's where her power lies, in not over-explaining, in not rescuing, in not performing. Stoicism reminds us that external chaos doesn't have to disturb inner peace, and a high-value woman brings that philosophy into her conversations. She isn't easily rattled by inconsistency. She doesn't spiral when he goes quiet for a day. She doesn't chase clarity with 15 texts and panicked overthinking. Her calm is unshaken because she's not trying to win him. She's observing, evaluating. And that evaluation comes through her tone more than her words. She's not asking if she's enough. She already knows. And when a man senses that she won't dilute herself to fit his comfort zone, he's forced to rise or fall away. And either outcome is fine with her. That's what makes her irresistible. Not just her beauty, not just her kindness, but her inner stance, her emotional posture, her verbal energy. She speaks like someone who is already full, And men can feel the difference between that and someone who is trying to be filled, because the former feels like peace, the latter feels like pressure. Lovios is about learning to detach from outcomes, and that detachment is not coldness, it's freedom. The freedom to show up fully without gripping for control. When a woman speaks with certainty, it doesn't mean she's always right. It means she trusts herself enough to stand by what she says. And that self-trust is contagious. It inspires trust from others, especially men, especially the kind of man who isn't looking for a woman to flatter his ego, but to awaken his purpose. And she does that not by trying harder, but by being realer. Every conversation becomes a reflection of her identity, not a negotiation of her worth. She's not trying to sell herself, she's showing up as herself. And that energy, that clarity, that poise, it leaves an imprint on a man's psyche that no performance ever could. This is what makes her presence so rare. This is what makes her communication unforgettable. This is what makes her love a privilege, not a lifeline. And when a man feels that, he's no longer just hearing her voice. He's remembering her silence, her stillness, her certainty. And that's the moment she goes from attractive to irreplaceable. Because men may be drawn to looks, but they stay for the gravity of a woman who doesn't need them, but speaks like someone they'll never find again. And the deeper he leans in, the more he realizes. This isn't just confidence. This is something more ancient, more powerful. This is stoicism turned to feminine expression. This is what Lovios looks like in motion. And once he feels it, he won't forget it. 2. She doesn't seek approval. She evaluates compatibility. One of the most transformative shifts a woman can make is to stop seeking a man's approval and instead begin evaluating his alignment. This isn't semantics. This is an energetic reframe that redefines how she enters conversations, how she responds to attention, and how she protects her peace. Approval seeking is the residue of fear, of social conditioning that whispers in the back of your mind. If he doesn't like me, I must not be enough. But evaluation is rooted in self-respect. It's the awareness that not every man qualifies, not every man deserves access, and that presence in your life must be earned, not simply granted because he showed interest. When a high-value woman sits across from a man, whether on a first date, in a situationship, or even a long-term relationship, her mindset isn't, "Do you like me?" It's, "Are you capable of holding space for the woman I've become?" And that question is not asked aloud. It's felt in her posture, her tone, her ability to stay grounded in her standards, even when chemistry tries to convince her to lower them. Most women are unconsciously trained to mold, to please, to shift ever so slightly into someone more desirable, more agreeable, more digestible. But what happens when that pattern goes unchecked? You become liked by many, but respected by none. And respect is the soil from which long-term desire grows. Without it, a man may be entertained, but he will never be invested. Lovios teaches us that true value is never proven by how much you bend. It's revealed by how deeply you're rooted. Stoicism, in its pure form, doesn't advocate for emotional coldness. It champions emotional clarity. The clarity to know who you are before you walk into any room, the clarity to observe, not perform, the clarity to ask real questions, not to impress, but to assess. That's what high-value women do in every conversation with a man. They assess, not because they're judgmental, but because they understand that attraction without alignment is emotional chaos waiting to happen. So they listen not just to his words, but to the gaps between them, to his energy, to his consistency, to how he responds to a no, to how he handles disagreement, to how quickly he wants access versus how slowly he earns trust. This is not interrogation. This is discernment. And discernment is the superpower of the emotionally sovereign woman. A woman who no longer fears being alone doesn't anxiously grasp for connection. She filters. She filters for maturity, for depth, for integrity, for follow-through, because she's no longer trying to be chosen. She's choosing. And that shift is magnetic. It places her in a category that most men rarely encounter. The woman who isn't impressed by charm, titles, or attention, but by character, consistency, and emotional responsibility. The woman who doesn't get flustered when a man pulls back, she gets curious. The woman who doesn't chase after mixed signals. She steps back and watches the truth reveal itself. That's not coldness, that's wisdom, because she knows this. The man who is truly meant for her will be drawn not to how much she wants him, but to how clearly she sees him. And that seeing, that ability to stay present in truth rather than fantasy, is what separates a woman who gets used from a woman who gets claimed. Evaluation requires presence. It requires maturity. It requires that you hold yourself to a standard higher than being liked. It means you're willing to risk not being chosen if it means not abandoning your values. And when a man feels that, when he realizes that your attention isn't given out like candy but carefully offered based on merit, he respects it. He may not always like it, but he respects it because it signals something few women carry: selectivity. Not arrogance, not entitlement, but earned selectivity born from experience, healing, and intentionality. It says, I'm not just emotionally available, I'm emotionally aware, and I don't choose based on attraction alone. I choose based on emotional safety, spiritual alignment, and shared values. That's what makes you unforgettable, not because you're withholding affection, but because you're not giving it away in exchange for potential. And here's where the energy of Lovios plays a defining role, because Stoicism teaches us to remove our ego from the equation, to observe what is, not what we wish it to be. A woman applying this in dating isn't reactive to every text, every compliment, every withdrawal. She's neutral, grounded, and focused on what's being shown, not just what's being said. She doesn't need to interrogate or manipulate. Her strength lies in her ability to observe without attachment, because she knows if he's real, she won't have to force it, and if he's not, silence will be the loudest answer. In this energy, even your questions change. You're no longer asking, what if he doesn't like me? You're asking, does he have the capacity to handle my truth? You're not asking, what can I do to keep him interested? You're asking, do his actions reflect the kind of man I would want to share my energy with? This isn't bitterness. This is clarity. And clarity is what protects your peace from becoming collateral damage in another man's emotional immaturity. Because when you stop seeking approval, you also stop tolerating inconsistency. You stop interpreting crumbs as cake. You stop overgiving just to prove you're worthy. You stop performing. You start listening to your intuition, to the reality unfolding in front of you. And in doing so, you step into a level of emotional power that most women never access, not because they can't, but because they've been trained to fear their own standards. But when you speak, act, and connect from the belief that your standards are sacred, not negotiable, you unlock a different level of respect from a man. He no longer sees you as a placeholder. He sees you as a mirror of what he is and what he is not, a reflection of the man he'll need to become if he wants to stand beside you. And most men, when faced with a woman who sees clearly and stays grounded, will do one of two things: rise or run. And both are blessings, because one gives you a partner and the other gives you closure. Either way, you win, because your worth was never dependent on being chosen. It was revealed in how you chose. That is what Lovios teaches us, that our peace, our presence, our personhood are not up for negotiation, that choosing ourselves first is not selfish, it's sacred. And when you carry that energy into every conversation with a man, you no longer fear rejection, you see it as redirection. You no longer fear being misunderstood, because your clarity doesn't require validation. You speak with boldness, ask questions with calm curiosity, and never let desire override discernment. That is power. That is presence. That is the posture of a high-value woman. If you felt something shift inside you while listening to this part, pause and reflect. This is where it all begins. Not with what you say to him, but with what you believe about yourself. And if this resonated, I wanted to take one small action right now. Like this video and comment if this message speaks to your soul. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the series. We're just getting started, and what's coming next is going to take you even deeper into the mindset of the unforgettable woman you're becoming. Let's keep going. 3. She states boundaries without drama. There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to explain itself into exhaustion, and doesn't crumble under the weight of disapproval. And that power lives inside every high-value woman who has mastered the art of setting boundaries without drama. Boundaries are not about building walls. They're about defining the gates. Who gets in, who stays out, and under what terms your energy can be accessed. And yet, for many women, boundaries have become a battlefield, a source of anxiety, a line that feels dangerous to draw because they were taught that kindness means compliance and love means tolerance. But true love, and especially Lovios, begins with self-respect. You cannot expect a man to honor your needs if you're afraid to voice them. You cannot expect him to protect your heart if you hand it over with no instruction. And you certainly cannot expect emotional security if your boundaries are more like blurry suggestions than clear standards. The Stoic woman knows that her peace is sacred, and it is not something she will sacrifice to maintain the illusion of harmony. She doesn't set boundaries to control a man. She sets them to protect her values. She knows that people-pleasing is just a fear response in disguise, and she refuses to betray herself just to avoid temporary discomfort. When she speaks a boundary, she does not raise her voice, she does not lace her tone with blame, and she does not engage in performative emotion to make her point. She simply states it directly, calmly, with the same tone she would use to state her name, because that's how familiar and unshakable it is. And if the man on the receiving end tries to twist it, mock it, challenge it, or minimize it, she doesn't get pulled into the chaos. She watches, she notes, and she lets his response tell her everything she needs to know. Because boundaries, when stated from a place of clarity, don't need to be argued. They're not up for debate. They are not conditional on whether or not he agrees with them. They are declarations of self, and a man's ability to respect them is not just a test of his character, it's a reflection of his emotional readiness. She doesn't set them to threaten. She sets them to define. She doesn't use them as ultimatums. She uses them as alignment checks, and she never, ever apologizes for having them. Why should she? A boundary is not a punishment. It is a roadmap to intimacy. It says, if you want to love me, here's how to do it safely. But most women, conditioned by approval-seeking and emotional scarcity, are terrified to state what they need. They fear that if they set the bar too high, he'll leave. They fear that if they assert their truth, they'll be labeled difficult, high maintenance, or ungrateful. And so they tolerate. They tolerate the disrespect disguised as sarcasm, the inconsistency brushed off as busyness, the emotional neglect dressed up as independence, until resentment builds, self-worth erodes, and their identity begins to disappear in the name of keeping the connection. But the Stoic woman refuses that path because she understands the paradox. When you are willing to walk away, you rarely have to. When your boundaries are real, meaning you will actually enforce them, you don't need to weaponize them. They're not threats, they're facts. And when spoken with calm certainty, they immediately filter out the emotionally unavailable, the manipulators, the testers, because those men are not drawn to clarity. They're drawn to chaos. And a woman with clean boundaries offers none. In fact, she becomes deeply unsettling to them because her boundaries are not reactive, they're proactive. They're not built out of pain, they're built out of peace. She doesn't wait until she's triggered to speak up. She leads with truth. She doesn't lash out when crossed. She simply withdraws access. No lecture, no explanation, just a shift in energy that says, I've seen enough. That kind of emotional discipline is rare, and that's what makes her powerful. Because while others are arguing, defending, chasing, or begging, she's already decided. She knows that a man who is truly for her will not require her to water down her values. He will rise to meet her standards, not because she forces him, but because her boundaries invite him to become better. And that invitation is one that only the secure and the ready will accept. Everyone else will fall away, and that's not a loss, that's a gift. Because when you abandon your boundaries to keep someone close, you teach them that love is earned through self-sacrifice. But when you hold your boundaries, especially when it's uncomfortable, you teach them that love begins with self-respect. Stoicism reminds us that we are not responsible for how others respond to our truth. We are only responsible for living it. The high-value woman does not base her boundaries on how much she likes a man. She bases them on what she knows she needs to stay emotionally healthy, mentally grounded, and spiritually whole. That's why she can say no without guilt. That's why she can leave without explanation. That's why she can protect her peace without apologizing for how it might make someone else feel. Because she understands this one profound truth. Emotional safety is not a bonus, it's a baseline. And if a man cannot provide it, she will not stay to train him. Her standards are not classrooms, they are filters. She doesn't use her love to rehabilitate dysfunction. She uses her presence to reflect what healthy connection looks like. And that reflection either elevates a man or exposes him. Either way, it's not her burden to carry. She is not his therapist, nor his mother, nor his motivator. She is a mirror, a lighthouse, a woman who has done the work to know what she deserves and the strength to walk away from anything less. She does not chase clarity, she gives it. She does not argue her worth, she lives it. And in doing so, she becomes magnetic in the most unexpected way, not because she is easy to be with, but because she is impossible to manipulate. That's what draws real men in. That's what keeps them leaning forward. Not the neediness, not the sweetness, not the ability to tolerate dysfunction, but the unwavering peace of a woman who knows her line and never steps below it. That energy does not shout, it does not perform, it does not beg. It simply is. And it silences every game, every test, every pattern of emotional immaturity because it does not engage. It does not reward breadcrumbs with attention. It does not fight for minimal effort. It does not mistake potential for promise. It says, here is what I require. You're either aligned or you're not. And it holds that line no matter how much chemistry there is, no matter how loud the butterflies get, no matter how tempting it is to pretend that something unhealthy could one day become healthy. Lovios doesn't allow for emotional fantasy. It demands truth, and truth without boundaries is just a performance. That's why she speaks up early. She corrects misalignment as it appears. She doesn't wait until she's shattered to say, "This doesn't work for me." She pays attention to the signs and acts accordingly, not dramatically, not emotionally, just decisively. Because she knows protecting her peace is not selfish, it's spiritual. It's the act of refusing to abandon yourself in order to be loved. And that refusal is what sets her apart, because most women are so afraid of being labeled difficult that they let themselves be disrespected. But she is different. She is not rude. She is not cruel, but she is clear. And clarity is more powerful than charm. It's more attractive than appearance. It's more sustainable than sexual chemistry, because clarity builds trust, and trust builds desire. And that desire, the one built on respect, not need, is the only kind worth having. That is what a man feels when a high-value woman looks him in the eye and says, "This is my boundary," and then actually lives by it. He may not understand it at first, he may resist it, he may test it. But over time, if he's the right man, he will rise to it, because your boundary, spoken from calm certainty, becomes a challenge to his integrity. And a man with integrity will never run from that. He'll rise, reflect, and return stronger. And if he doesn't, your silence will do the rest. That's what makes you unforgettable. For she uses silence as a weapon of clarity. There's a unique kind of power that doesn't come from speaking more, but from knowing when not to speak at all. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it with empty words, nervous laughter, justifications, or questions designed to smooth over tension. But a high-value woman, one rooted in the principles of Stoicism, does not fear silence. She uses it. She understands that silence is not a void. It is a mirror, and when it's held with presence and poise, it reveals more truth than 1,000 words ever could. Her silence is not the absence of thought. It's the presence of power. It creates space for reflection, for truth to rise to the surface, for clarity to breathe. When a man is used to women rushing to soothe his ego, to explain their emotions, to soften their standards with endless dialogue, he doesn't know what to do when faced with a woman who simply stops talking and waits. Waits for him to show his cards. Waits for him to lean into the discomfort. Waits for the real energy behind the performance. Because she's not trying to impress him, She's not trying to avoid awkwardness. She's not trying to please. She's observing. And in her observation, in her quiet, in her calm stillness, she creates a pressure that no performance can escape. Men are not wired to fear words. They're wired to fear what they can't predict. And nothing is more unpredictable than a woman who doesn't react the way they've come to expect. The woman who doesn't flinch when he goes silent. The woman who doesn't chase when he pulls back. The woman who doesn't fill the space just to feel heard. That woman isn't passive. She's intentional. Her silence is a tool. It tests. It reveals. It confronts without aggression. And it often tells her everything she needs to know. In the stillness, she hears the truth. She sees the patterns. She watches the energy shift. And because she's not afraid of sitting in that space, she sees what most women miss. Lovios teaches us to detach from the need to control external outcomes, and silence is the highest form of that detachment. When you don't fill the space, you give the other person a chance to expose themselves. Will they meet you with maturity? Will they get uncomfortable and lash out? Will they seek clarity or retreat into defensiveness? Your silence draws out the real man beneath the mask, because a man may be able to charm his way through fast-paced conversations, but he can't fake presence. He can't fake depth. And when you hold silence, not as punishment, but as presence, you force that depth to surface. This is why a high-value woman's silence carries weight. It's not about manipulation, it's about embodiment. It's about knowing that not everything requires a response, not every disrespect requires a debate, not every trigger deserves your energy. Silence, used correctly, is the highest form of response. It's not cold, it's clear. It's the sound of self-trust, the rhythm of discernment, the echo of boundaries that don't need to be shouted to be honored. And when a man experiences that, it shakes him, not in a fearful way, but in a revelatory one. He starts to realize this woman doesn't seek attention. She commands presence. She doesn't demand answers. She creates space for truth. She doesn't chase connection. She allows alignment. And that space, that pause, that breath, becomes the turning point in how he sees her. Because most women he's known have given too much, spoken too fast, reacted too emotionally. But she is different. She breathes. She waits. She listens. Not because she is unsure, but because she is wise. She lets him fill the space, or not. And in that gap, she learns everything. Whether he's serious, whether he's hiding, whether he can be emotionally available, whether he respects the pause or rushes past it. Silence is her microscope, and clarity is the lens. This is the essence of stoicism in feminine form. Not just reacting with emotion, but holding space for truth. She doesn't fight for closure. She allows it to rise. She doesn't beg for answers. She watches the behavior. She doesn't explain her standards into palatability. She embodies them through presence. And presence is what makes her unforgettable. In a world where everyone is talking, the woman who pauses becomes magnetic. She slows the rhythm of interaction. She brings the nervous system down from a reactive high. She grounds the moment. And the man in front of her feels it. He feels that she's not flinching, not forcing, not rushing. He feels that she could walk away, that she doesn't need to be right, that she's not seeking a win. She's seeking what's real. And that creates a different experience, one that doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like clarity, because now he's not being performed for, he's being seen. And more importantly, he's being studied. That alone shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, he's aware of himself in a way he wasn't before. And that awareness either awakens him or disqualifies him. Either way, she wins because her silence made space for truth, not fantasy. And truth is where love begins. Not the reactive kind, not the obsessive kind, but the rare kind, the kind rooted in deep mutual seeing, the kind that doesn't play games because it's not afraid to be still. When she uses silence as clarity, she's no longer trying to be loved. She's deciding who's worthy of her love. She's no longer seeking connection. She's assessing compatibility. She's no longer trying to prove her value. She's demonstrating it by the way she navigates tension. And a man who is truly grounded, truly secure, will feel inspired by that silence. It will invite him to speak more intentionally, to show up more completely, to bring more of his truth to the surface. Because he knows this woman doesn't entertain noise. She doesn't tolerate confusion. She doesn't indulge inconsistency. She honors clarity. And if he can't match that clarity, she won't try to translate it for him. She'll let him disqualify himself. That's how she protects her energy. Not through arguments, but through absence. Not through explanations, but through observation. Not through chaos, but through stillness. And it is that stillness, that refusal to break herself just to be understood, that makes her unforgettable. Men don't remember the woman who yelled the loudest. They remember the one who didn't need to raise her voice because her silence spoke truth. And it's in that silence that they begin to feel the contrast between all the women who needed to be chosen and the one who didn't. Between those who talked over their worth and the one who simply embodied it. Between those who begged for clarity and the one who became it. That's the paradox. The less she chases, the more he leans in. The less she performs, the more he pays attention. The less she explains, the more he listens. Because now he's not just responding to words, he's responding to energy. And her energy is still rooted, whole. Not because she has no feelings, but because she's done betraying them. That's what Stoicism offers her. Emotional discipline without emotional suppression, strength without aggression, softness without submission. And in that sacred silence, she becomes more than a woman. She becomes a presence. A presence that he can't ignore. A presence that makes him question who he is, how he speaks, what he offers. A presence that challenges him not with demand, but with discernment. And in that, she becomes the standard, not just the exception, because she didn't fight for a place in his life. She made him realize what a loss her absence would be. That is the final power of silence. It echoes, it lingers, it teaches, it reveals, and it clears space for only the aligned to remain. If this message resonates with your soul, I want you to take a moment. Like this video and comment if you felt the power of silence in your own life. And don't forget to subscribe, because what's coming next will elevate your presence even more. Let's keep building your feminine power one truth at a time. 5. She speaks from wholeness, not wounds. There is a fundamental shift that happens in a woman's presence when she stops using conversation as a space to unconsciously process her pain and instead uses it as a mirror of her wholeness. This shift is not loud, not dramatic, not boastful. It is quiet and grounded, and it changes everything. A high-value woman who speaks from wholeness no longer enters conversations to prove she's healed. She simply no longer leaks. She is not emotionally fragile, not easily triggered, not looking for someone to rescue her from her past. Instead, she holds herself with the kind of stability that makes others feel safe around her, not because she has no history, but because she's no longer controlled by it. She doesn't weaponize her trauma. She doesn't mask her pain with perfection. She doesn't unload emotional burdens in exchange for affection. She takes full ownership of her story, and because of that, she doesn't need a man to play the role of savior. Her conversations are not requests for validation. They are expressions of clarity. She knows where she's been, what it taught her, and what she'll never accept again. That knowing shows up in every word she says. Most people, even when unaware, speak from a place of emotional hunger. You can hear it in the over-explaining, in the oversharing on first dates, in the seeking of pity disguised as vulnerability. But when a woman speaks from wholeness, there is none of that. She reveals, but she does not bleed. She can share deeply without dumping emotionally. She can be soft without being porous. Her softness is not a request to be saved. It's a signal of maturity. And men feel that. They feel that she's not using her words to manage anxiety. She's not editing herself for approval. She's not trying to trauma bond in hopes of fast intimacy. She's moving with calm certainty, rooted in her own enoughness. Lovios teaches us that our value is not determined by how much pain we've endured, but by how we've integrated that pain. Wholeness isn't about being untouched by life. It's about no longer being broken by it. And when you speak from that space, your tone changes. You no longer need to talk about your ex to explain your trust issues. You no longer bring up your past to justify your standards. You don't need to explain the journey. Your energy already reveals the outcome. This is what makes a high-value woman so captivating. She is emotionally self-contained. She speaks with warmth, with depth, but never from desperation. Her presence says, "I've met myself at my worst, and I chose to rebuild." That energy is magnetic, not because it begs to be seen, but because it cannot be ignored. Most men are not used to this. They're used to women who confuse emotional intensity with connection. They're used to being needed as emotional scaffolding. But when they meet a woman who doesn't need to be saved, who instead invites them to meet her on solid ground, it shifts something deep in them. Her words don't plead, her stories don't seek sympathy, her boundaries don't come with a backstory. They're just truth, raw, unfiltered, unshakable truth. And that's the most attractive energy in the world, the kind that doesn't ask for approval, doesn't chase reassurance, doesn't use a man to regulate her emotions. She regulates herself. She speaks when it's meaningful. She listens more than she explains. She lets silence have space. And when she opens her mouth, her language is clean, not just articulate, clean. Free of blame, free of performance, free of narrative inflation. There is no manipulation, no self-victimization, no projection. She owns her wounds, but she doesn't wear them like identity. That is the hallmark of someone who has done the work. You see, many people talk about healing, few actually do it. But the ones who do, you know it the second they speak, not because they're perfect, but because they're responsible. They don't use past pain as a justification for present chaos. They don't let their triggers speak louder than their wisdom. They speak from integration, from reflection, from conscious choice. And this kind of woman isn't just refreshing, she's unforgettable. Because when she shares, it's not to impress, it's to connect. She asks questions not to control the outcome, but to understand the dynamic. She doesn't rush intimacy. She lets it unfold because she's not afraid of slowness. She's not afraid of being misunderstood. She knows who she is without needing a man to confirm it. That's what stoicism gives her. The ability to stay composed, not because she's suppressing emotion, but because she's already processed it. She doesn't come to the conversation with unresolved chaos swirling beneath the surface. She comes whole, present, aligned. And in doing so, she offers a kind of space that most men don't know how to name, but they crave it. It feels different. It feels steady. It feels safe. Safe not because she's agreeable, but because she's consistent. Her moods don't swing wildly based on external attention. Her opinions don't change just to avoid conflict. Her words don't shift with the emotional weather. She's rooted, grounded, intact. And when she disagrees, she does it with grace. When she sets a boundary, she does it with calm. When she speaks her truth, she doesn't ask for it to be liked. She simply lets it be known. That level of emotional independence makes her rare, and men, whether conscious or not, respond to rarity. Because most relationships are built on unconscious codependency, the kind where one person's wounds become the other's job to fix. But the woman who speaks from wholeness doesn't play that game. She's not looking for emotional fusion. She's looking for aligned resonance. She doesn't want to lose herself in love. She wants to bring her full self to love. And that's why she's magnetic. Because her love is not a transaction, it's an overflow. It's not a lifeline, it's a choice. And choice is what makes love powerful. When a man feels chosen by a woman who doesn't need him, it activates something ancient in his core. It shifts his psychology. It resets his expectations. Because he's not used to it. He's used to being clung to, begged for, needed. But now he's dealing with someone who could walk away and be fine. Someone who loves with depth, but not dependence. Someone whose presence doesn't come from lack, but from alignment. That's a spiritual experience. That's what Lovios is all about, because wholeness isn't just about healing. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to question your worth. And when a woman returns to that place, her words carry weight. They don't float, they land. They pierce, they move, they call a man up, not because she demands it, but because her presence doesn't allow anything less. That is the power of speaking from wholeness. It doesn't seek attention, it commands reverence. It doesn't seduce, it inspires. It doesn't chase, it attracts. And in doing so, it separates her from the crowd, not because she tries to stand out, but because she no longer fits in. She's no longer driven by the need to be accepted. She's already accepted herself fully. And that self-acceptance bleeds into her communication, into the way she holds eye contact, into the way she responds instead of reacts, into the way she stays calm even when the energy gets charged. She's no longer emotionally hijacked by fear. She doesn't project the past onto the present. She sees clearly, speaks cleanly, loves intentionally. And that's what men feel. The emotional discipline that reveals she's not here to be saved. She's already done that for herself. And if you've ever wondered what makes a woman unforgettable long after the conversation ends, it's not the cleverness of her words, it's the wholeness they come from. That is the difference between emotional noise and emotional depth. One fills space, the other holds it. One seeks reassurance, the other reflects truth. And when truth speaks, it echoes. That is the sound of a woman who knows who she is and loves from that place. 6. She communicates like she's the prize because she is. There is a distinct, undeniable energy that surrounds a woman who has realized she is the prize. Not in a superficial way, not through arrogance or inflated ego, but from a deep internal recognition of her worth, her evolution, and her ability to walk away from anything that dishonors her value. When she communicates, it's not to win someone over, it's to express where she stands. She's not competing, she's not convincing, she's not molding herself to be chosen. She already knows she's the one doing the choosing. And this awareness shifts everything. From her posture to her tone, from the way she responds to flirtation to the way she addresses disrespect. She doesn't speak to be liked. She speaks to be understood. She doesn't ask questions to keep the conversation alive. She asks to see if the man she's talking to is mentally, emotionally, and spiritually awake. Her energy says, I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I know that if you walk away, it will not shake the foundation I stand on. And that creates a gravitational pull that few men can resist, not because she's being seductive, but because she's rare. Rare in a world where women have been conditioned to chase validation, to seek external permission, to prove themselves worthy of love. She's no longer playing that game. She's rewritten the rules entirely. Her presence alone becomes the filter. She doesn't need to test him. Her certainty tests him. She doesn't need to demand more. Her standards demand it for her. And when she speaks, she does so with the quiet conviction of a woman who has done the work, the inner work, the spiritual rewiring, the emotional leveling up. She knows that her presence is not a favor. It's not something handed out to anyone who offers attention. It's earned through consistency, through integrity, through mutual emotional responsibility. And because she carries herself like a woman of worth, men either rise to meet her frequency or they fade. There is no middle ground. That's what makes her unforgettable, not just because she's beautiful or brilliant or magnetic, though she may be all those things, but because she treats herself like a standard, not a suggestion. And that tone runs through every interaction. When she enters a room, she doesn't seek to be noticed, she simply is. She doesn't adjust her language to avoid offense. She doesn't flirt to gain approval. She doesn't apologize for her existence, her preferences, or her expectations. She shows up fully and lets her presence do the rest. Lovios teaches us that emotional detachment is not indifference, it's mastery. And this woman has mastered her emotional center. She is aware of her power, but she doesn't misuse it. She is aware of her impact, but she doesn't exploit it. She moves with grace, not games, with clarity, not chaos, with depth, not drama. And men feel that. They may not know why they lean in, why they feel slightly off balance around her, why they begin to question their past choices and how they've shown up in relationships, but something about her forces a recalibration. She communicates like a queen, not because she demands to be treated like royalty, but because she treats herself that way. Her time is valuable, her attention is not distributed freely, her love is not a default, it's a decision. A decision made from discernment. not loneliness, from overflow, not lack, from desire, not dependence. And when she chooses a man, it's not to complete her, it's to walk beside her. Because she was whole before he arrived, she will be whole if he leaves. That kind of woman, she doesn't just attract men, she transforms them, without forcing, without pleading, without sacrificing herself in the name of love. She simply holds the line that says, this is who I am, this is what I expect, this is how I love, and this is what I will never tolerate. She doesn't justify her standards, she embodies them. She doesn't chase potential, she rewards behavior. She doesn't collapse under pressure, she grows stronger in silence. And that silence, that stillness, that refusal to perform, it's what men remember. Because she doesn't just speak with her mouth, she speaks with her presence, with her ability to walk away, with the way she prioritizes her peace over his potential. And the man who is ready, the man who's done his own work, the man who's not afraid of a woman with power, he will recognize her. He will feel the privilege of being seen by her. He will cherish the clarity she brings. He will lean into the responsibility of being chosen by someone who doesn't need him, but honors him. That's what makes her love unforgettable. Because it's not about what she gives, it's about who she is while giving it. Not needy, not desperate, not transactional, just full, intentional, present, rooted. And in that rootedness, she creates space for the right kind of man to rise, not because she's trying to inspire him, but because he realizes he either levels up or loses her. And that loss, it would echo, because she's not the kind of woman who lingers where she's not valued. She's not the kind of woman who waits for someone to realize her worth. She is Lovios in motion, present, powerful, and unattached. And the second she feels her standards slipping in his presence, she leaves, not emotionally, not dramatically, but decisively. Because she understands that no connection is worth compromising her center. And no man, no matter how charming or successful, adds to her core value. He can enhance it, he can complement it, but he cannot create it. And that truth allows her to speak, move, connect, and walk in a way that is sovereign, free, and unshakable. This is the paradox that most women never get taught. When you treat yourself like the prize, you no longer have to prove it. You no longer have to audition for attention. You no longer have to overcompensate to be kept. You just show up and let everything that isn't aligned fall away. Because you're no longer afraid of being alone. You're afraid of betraying yourself. And that shift, that's what makes you irresistible. That's what creates emotional gravity. That's what commands not just love, but deep, lasting, reverent connection. If this truth resonates, if it awakens something powerful inside you, then I invite you right now to take one moment and ground this energy by clicking like and commenting below. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe because this is just the beginning. You're becoming a woman who doesn't just talk different, you move different, you think different, you love different. And that difference is what sets you apart forever. When you truly begin to embody the mindset and presence of a high-value woman, your entire experience with men transforms, not because you manipulate them, but because you finally stop manipulating yourself to fit into their narratives. You stop dimming your light to match their readiness. You stop shrinking your standards to accommodate their emotional limitations. You stop mistaking potential for partnership. And you begin to see clearly who is truly aligned and who is merely attracted to your energy, but not prepared to respect it. The way you speak to men becomes a direct reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. If your voice trembles when you set a boundary, it's not the man's response that matters. It's the fact that your internal world is still negotiating with your own worth. If you over-explain your standards, it's because a part of you still fears that your truth might push love away. But once you realize that your truth is what actually attracts the right love, everything changes. You no longer speak from a place of trying to be understood by everyone. You begin to understand yourself so deeply that your words become weapons of clarity and your silence becomes a sacred force of self-protection. The high-value woman doesn't operate from ego, and she doesn't rely on performance. She moves from principle. And the more grounded she becomes in those principles, peace, truth, respect, self-command, the more effortlessly she filters out men who aren't aligned. You stop being afraid of rejection because you realize that every rejection is a revelation, a mirror, a blessing. The man who walks away from your clarity was never meant to hold your depth. And the man who leans in, not just with his desire, but with his integrity, that's the one worth building with. And he'll know it too, because high-quality men are not drawn to approval-seeking. They are drawn to calm certainty. They are not captivated by performance. They are magnetized by peace. They are not impressed by how much you give up for them. They are in awe of how deeply you stay rooted in yourself while still offering your love. This is the essence of feminine stoicism, not coldness, not distance, but emotional authority. It's the capacity to love with depth, to connect with authenticity, but never at the cost of your center. When you embrace this way of speaking, of showing up, of holding space, you begin to attract not just attention, but respect, not just romance, but reverence, not just men, but the right man. Because the right man won't be threatened by your truth, he'll be clarified by it. He won't mock your standards, he'll rise to meet them. He won't flinch when you pause, he'll feel invited to breathe deeper. This is the kind of dynamic that can only be created by a woman who no longer sees a man as the source of her worth, but as someone worthy of sharing her world, if and only if he is equipped to protect it. This is a level of relationship most never reach, because it requires you to strip away every story that told you being chosen was the goal. You begin to understand that the real goal was always to choose yourself so fully, so unapologetically, that only the emotionally sovereign could stand beside you. And in that energy, you don't chase, because nothing that belongs to you will require you to abandon your voice to get it. You don't perform, because real intimacy cannot be earned through pretense. And you don't explain your worth, because you've built it so thoroughly within yourself that even silence becomes a statement. You're no longer walking through dating as a girl hoping to be picked. You are a woman walking in her purpose, open to connection, but never hostage to it. And that energetic shift is what flips the dynamic in every room you walk into. When you speak, people pause, not because you're loud, but because your words carry intention. When you set a boundary, it's respected, not because you force it, but because it's real. When you say no, there's no guilt. When you say yes, it's full-bodied. There's no more saying one thing and doing another, no more half commitments, no more tiptoeing around your own truth. You begin to see that your communication isn't just a tool, it's a reflection of your entire inner world. And when that world is rooted in wholeness, in peace, in purpose, your words become sharp, your energy becomes rare, and your presence becomes unforgettable. You realize that in order to be loved properly, you must first love yourself like you are the prize, because you are. And that love doesn't look like ego. It looks like honoring your time, protecting your energy, trusting your intuition, speaking your truth, not to be agreed with, but because your truth deserves to be spoken. And when that becomes your baseline, the way you speak to men evolves into something unshakable. You're not fishing for compliments. You're not adjusting your tone to keep him comfortable. You're not shrinking your opinions to be liked. You're not rushing to please. You're grounded, patient, observing, aware. And in that awareness, you become a mirror. Some men will run from that mirror. Others will rise because of it. And that is the point. Not to be chosen by everyone, but to be clear enough to only attract what's aligned. To move with such emotional intelligence that the wrong ones disqualify themselves without you needing to lift a finger to create a life so rich with self-respect, silence, and purpose that your presence is a gift, not a gamble. That's when your love becomes a privilege, not because you say it, but because it's felt. Because you treat yourself that way. Because your words, your pauses, your gaze, your detachment, your kindness, your firmness, all of it communicates the same message. I am whole, and I am not here to audition. And when a man feels that, he has two choices: evolve or exit. Either way, your peace remains. And this is what makes you unforgettable. Not just how you speak to him, but how you speak to yourself when he's not around. Not just how you ask for love, but how you refuse to settle. Not just how you carry conversations, but how you carry your own emotional world with grace. You begin to embody something sacred, something that even you at one point didn't know existed inside of you. A quiet power, a still strength, a presence that doesn't perform, doesn't rush, doesn't overgive, doesn't tolerate chaos just to feel wanted. You begin to see that you never had to convince the right man of your value. You just had to communicate like someone who already knew it. This is the lesson, this is the work, this is the transformation. And now that you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. You're no longer just speaking to men. You're speaking through a filter of clarity that will only allow the aligned to remain. You're no longer negotiating your worth in conversations. You're asserting it with grace, detachment, and deep feminine knowing. You are becoming the woman men remember, not because you said the right things, but because every word came from a place they couldn't manipulate, because every boundary came from a strength they couldn't fake, because your presence reminded them of the highest version of themselves and of the woman they could only keep if they met her where she already stood. That is Lovios. That is emotional sovereignty. That is feminine mastery. And that is who you are becoming.